Hello everyone! Today we are going to be jumping into Standard, where we're going to be taking a lot of the new cards from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan and playing a Caves deck. So, first thing to talk about, which is fairly notable, is our mana base here, and it is filled with caves. We do have 4 basic land forests, but the rest of our lands will all be caves. We've been given a lot of different valuable lands here. We have Sunken Citadel, where we can choose its color. We've got Forgotten Monument, where we can make all of our other caves tap for any mana color as long as we pay 1 life. We have Cavernous Maw here, which can turn into a creature land. So we have a ton of value there. Taking a look at the main deck, we've got a couple of different things going on. So first off, we're going to try 1 copy of Get Lost, a new removal spell from the set. We also have Go for the Throat, old classic in terms of removal. Glimpse the Core is going to act as some early game ramp, and in the late game we can get back some of our Cavernous Maws if they've died or been destroyed, bring them onto the battlefield and give us those creature land attackers. Bat Colony is one of the big cave synergy cards here. Going to create a 1/1 black creature token with flying for each mana from a cave spent to cast it, so most of the time this is going to be 3 bats. But additionally, whenever a cave enters the battlefield under our control, we can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature we control, so that's going to be really big for growing all of our threats. Now you have 2 copies of Draconic Destiny. This combos off really well with Blossoming Tortoise and Cavernous Maw, letting us go ahead and pump up a creature, our Cavernous Maw, to be as large as we want it to be. Ideally lethal on our opponent, and it'll get flying. So all of this is going to be pretty good. We have Spelunking here. Spelunking is going to have our tapped lands enter the battlefield untapped, and we can also use this to stabilize against aggro using that life gain ability if we put a cave onto the battlefield. Calamitous Cave-In is a really good removal spell here. It does function as a board wipe, and that board wipe is going to get better and better over the course of the game. So we're probably going to be looking at, if we play it on turn 4 damage to everything if we get 4 caves out there. And that's only going to get bigger over the course of the game. Blossoming Tortoise is going to get us more caves onto the battlefield, which is going to be really good and give us additional value that way. It's also going to go ahead and pump our Cavernous Maws. And now, we have Cosmium Confluence here. This is a big spell for 5 mana that's going to give us a lot of different value. We can search for caves and put them onto the battlefield, so we can use this to ramp. We can turn our caves into creatures, which is powerful as well, and we can destroy enchantments if our opponent has anything that's a little pesky that we want to get rid of. So we get to pick 3 modes, and we can choose the same one more than once, so this gives us a lot of different options and a lot of flexibility with our mana. Now, what are we going to do with all these caves? We can play out our Gargantuan Leech here. If we have a bunch of caves on the battlefield, it's going to get cheaper for each cave we have. And of course, this is a 5/5 with lifelink, so this is definitely going to help us stabilize into aggro decks. And overall, it's going to be a pretty strong attacker, because even if our opponent manages to block and kill this, right, we can be gaining life, which is going to help keep us ahead of our opponent. And then the last major inclusion here is Virtue of Persistence. Now, one of the interesting things that I'd mention, I haven't seen a lot of people playing this in Cavern decks, is 1, the removal option is going to be really strong, -3/-3, gain 2 life, really good on turn 2, and it gives us more removal that way. But also, we are running Calamitous Cave-In, which will wipe our board and the opponent's board. So we definitely want a card that can benefit from having creatures in the graveyard, and Virtue of Persistence does exactly that. Our Cave-In cast with enough caves on the battlefield can destroy almost any threat our opponents have, and we can go ahead and steal it with Virtue. We can also get back our Blossoming Tortoise, which is going to be really strong for us as well. Or our Gargantuan Leech. Again, if we get a 5/5 lifelink on the battlefield each turn, that's going to be really strong. So I definitely think Virtue is worth including. So that's pretty much the deck. Remember, if you guys have been enjoying my content, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on my latest videos. And if you do enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like. Let's go ahead and see how this deck does. Alright, on the play for our first turn, and honestly this looks like a pretty good opening hand. I'm going to go ahead and keep this. Forgotten Monument is a great cave to see, since that's going to fix pretty much all of our mana problems. We have the ability to wipe the board early. Once we find our extra lands, we can find another land with Glimpse the Core next turn. So we know that we're going to have 4 mana for sure. Lots of good things here. Still waiting on our opponent, and opponent says hello very nicely. Then we're going to start with the tap land, say hello back. So next turn we're going to plan on going for a Glimpse of the Core. We have to play Forgotten Monument for that, and we are going to choose that ramp option. Ginger Brute, alright, so we are playing up against an aggro deck. At least most likely. Potentially this is mono red. Now we do find another forest here. We do have to go Forgotten Monument. I want to have the cave on the battlefield, just because this is going to give us more options if we draw our white enchantment, so that way we can spend 3 mana from caves and make 3 bats. It's the only reason we didn't play out this forest here, to not have to pay the life. Either way, next turn with Spelunking, we'll be able to gain 4 life. Alright, let's go ahead and play out Spelunking real quick. We'll see what we draw. Another Leech. The Leeches should be really strong for getting us ahead. And we can start casting them next turn. Now, of course, we can also use our Cave In, so if our opponent plays out some more creatures, we might want to just wipe the board. But it looks like they're being cautious. Down to 12 life. Still not in incredible danger. We are going to play our Hidden Volcano here. Now, we could play the Leech, but I think we just want to wipe the board here. We do have 2 board wipes. I don't feel bad about it. If we start getting more caves, we're going to threaten our own creatures with those board wipes as well. So I think we clear the board here and then play towards going ahead and getting our Leech out next turn. Depending on what our opponent does, we can wipe the board again. Play with fire, sure. Scrying to the bottom. That's good for us. Go ahead and end the turn. Scalding Viper. So fortunately for us, that's not really going to do anything against our deck, because all of our spells are going to be 4 or more. At least all the spells that we have in hand currently. And these Leeches are going to be really hard to deal with. Our opponent's essentially going to have to discard 2 cards and pay whatever their mana cost is to deal with this, because they won't have single target removal. I'm not seeing any blue either, so they won't be able to just return the Leech to our hand. Let's go ahead and play out the Vault. It's okay if we pay life here, because we have enough caves where we can play out both Leeches. So now, starting next turn, we can start gaining life, 10 life at a time. It's gonna look pretty good. Alright, opponent does have blue with the Shivering Reef, so they might be able to bounce one of these. Glimpse the Core. Not a terrible draw. Good game, says our opponent. I don't think they can deal with the lifelink. Seems like we've got it. Alright, on the play, and we do see Forgotten Monument and Hidden Volcano, but I do want to see some more lands. I think that it's a little dangerous to keep that. Here we're going to be missing out on our ability to cast Glimpse the Core. We're going to mulligan one more time. And this looks better for us, so we'll go ahead, keep 5 here. We're going to get rid of one of the cave-ins, one of the Get Lost. And I think we're going to be in a pretty good spot. Let's go with Hidden Nursery first. Now we can play the Courtyard. Now here we're going to have 3 cave lands for our bat colony, so we'll get 3 bats next turn. And another bat colony, which is honestly pretty good for us. So the plan now is next turn we're going to play out our other bat colony, and then we're going to play this cave, pick red as our color. It's going to give us 3 more bats and give us 2+1/+1 counters, fight rigging, alright. So we're probably playing against some like Galta dinosaur deck, something like that. Let's go next bat colony. Pick red. +1/+1 counter on you, +1/+1 counter on you, swing out. Get as much damage as we can. So we're looking at 8 damage next turn. Worst case scenario, board wipe. Rampaging Raptor, sure. So we outdamage our opponent in terms of tempo right now, so no real reason. We don't have the black mana we need for Go for the Throat, but we can sacrifice Volatile Vault to get that if we need to. I'm just going to go ahead and swing out here. So now we have Lethal on board. So with Lethal on board, our opponent's going to have to do something pretty big here. We have Go for the Throat that we can use with the Vault if they have a creature that might threaten flipping Fight Rigging, so we don't have to deal with that. I kind of like it. I do think we have this game here. Okay, another Fight Rigging. So both of those triggers are going to go ahead and bring the Raptor up to 7. Which is going to flip both of them. So we are going to have to kill Raptor with Go for the Throat here. Alright. Let's go ahead and sack this real quick. We'll go ahead and get rid of Rockfall Veil. This will give us the treasure token that we need. Okay. And now we'll go ahead and destroy the Rampaging Raptor. No Fight Rigging for our opponent. And we've got it. Alright, here we go. We can keep this. This is going to be fine. We'll be able to get out Bat Colony. Let's go ahead and start with the Cavernous Maw. Get rid of Summoning Sickness while we can. We've got the Cave-Ins. Let's go ahead and play out Forgotten Monument. I think that's going to be best choice here. Go ahead and play here. Now we'll get 3 bats. Off to a good start. We have Virtue as removal. Opponent looks like they're playing a mono green deck. They've been skipping a lot of their turns. Augur of Autumn, sure. We'll go ahead and get rid of that. Go for the +1/+1 counter. Swing out. Opponent's down at 16. Draconic Destiny. Could be a valid play next turn. Cemetery Prowler, sure. I want to see some more caves out of us. Alright, Causium Confluence. Let's see. I think we're just going to go all caves. Cavernous Maw. Cavernous Maw. Cavernous Maw. It's going to give us a lot of options here. We'll split up our counters. 9. And then we have Lethal with Draconic Destiny next turn. So our opponent's going to have to figure out something pretty quick. Defiler of Vigor, sure, that's a fun creature. Maybe they have something else to play, but I don't think so. Bat Colony. If they can remove Bat Colony, that's fine as well. Again, we just kind of need our creatures. Life total's looking good too. Sure, swinging out. Exile that. Sorceries are a little bit cheaper, so this is something to be a little afraid of. How do we want to do this? We can use the Confluence. If we use the Confluence, it's +3. And we can spread it out. versus Draconic Destiny, where we overinvest in one creature. I think we'll use Confluence. Let's just grab all of our caves. Pick a nice mix. We'll grab a red one, grab a black one, grab a white one. You. And then we're gonna go ahead and swing out. If our opponent has a fight spell, they'll use it. No reason to use Draconic Destiny just yet. Nope, we've got it. Alright, on the play, Glimpse the Core for early ramp. We have Forgotten Monument. This looks like a great hand. Gonna start with the Nursery. Next turn we'll play out the Monument, Glimpse, grab a land. We want to ramp here. Land, look at that. Next turn we have Spelunking we can use to gain some life. We could also go for the Tortoise. Two different options there. Alright, playing out the Siren. Ooh, we also have Bat Colony, and I think Bat Colony is definitely going to be the way to go here. We're going to play that out, make our bats, get a +1/+1 counter. Now, only 2 bats there because we have the Forest, but I think the +1/+1 counter on a bat is going to be more important, just so we have some blockers available to us. Next turn, we can go for a Spelunking with the Maw, maybe get 2 lands out. That could be really strong. Okay, +1/+1 counter, sure, that's fine. Now, we will block here. I don't know why we wouldn't. Opponent can't kill both. Yep. Looks good. We do have Virtue. Let's see. We can actually play both Spelunking and Virtue, so let's go Spelunking first. Draw a card, see what we find. Sunken Citadel. Fun. We'll go ahead and put that on the battlefield. Get a +1/+1 counter. We'll go here. We'll pick black. Get another +1/+1 counter. We could play out the Leech, but I think it's going to be more important to go ahead minus there, and 3 damage. Opponent down to 17, and we already have a crazy field here. One more land, and we can actually play out our Virtue and start stealing our opponent's creatures. That's going to be pretty cool. Opponent's once again tapped out. If we find one more land with Blossoming Tortoise, we can actually play this and our Leech as well. We do find another land. I think it's going to be stronger to play out Virtue here. Opponent is playing a deck with access to blue, so I'm a little scared of counterspells. Gonna just deal that initial damage, get our opponent down to 14. We're at 23, so I'm fine with our health buffer here. We can start stealing creatures out of our opponent's graveyard. Let's see, artifact creatures. Let's start stealing our opponent's synergy, actually. We're going to grab Captain Storm with Virtue next turn. I think that's going to be the best call out here. Equip, sure. Menace, that's fine. They should just attack here, bring us down to 21. 20, that's fine. Yep, makes their treasure. 1 card in hand for our opponent, so we're definitely ahead here. Maybe we're going to see them play out that last card. They're thinking about it. Maybe they want to save the treasure. Who knows? Sure. That's fine. Alright, Captain Storm. Let's go Blossoming Tortoise. We get a cave, so we put a +1/+1 counter on our creature that can't be blocked. Now, we could play out our Leech here, but I think we go for the Tortoise, and then hope for a cave that can tap for black. We don't find it, but that's alright. We're just going to swing for 4, bring our opponent down to 10. Next turn, we're going to be in an extra good spot. We grab that Pirate here, and we go ahead, or sorry, we grab our Artifact, and we get a Pirate. We're going to start having our synergy from our opponent's deck. 2 damage, they get a treasure token, still 1 card. I'm not too concerned. They can deal a couple more damage by tapping things with the Militia. Alright, play out that last. It's a 3/3. And 3+1/+1 counters. And 3 1/1s. That's totally fine. I think we're going to start swinging next turn. Next turn is going to be big for attacks, depending on what we draw, of course. If we draw something really good, maybe we play that instead. But we've got options. Yep. Sorcery speed. The more things they tap down, the more damage we have next turn. So I really do want to see them tap a bunch. We're not really threatened right now. Now keep in mind when Blossoming Tortoise attacks and mills, we can get some caves back, which are going to give us more +1/+1 counters with the Bat Colony. Sure, sacrifice for the +1/+1 counter, that's fine. Not concerned there. Alright, moving on to our turn. Gonna go ahead and steal this back. We could have grabbed the leech out of our graveyard, which could have been good, but I do want to put that +1/+1 counter there. Glimpse the core. Do we have any caves there? We do not. Let's go ahead and move to combat. We're just gonna swing out. Go ahead, Sunken Citadel. I can pick green there. You get a +1/+1 counter, so let's go ahead and put that on this tortoise here. Another cave. Get another +1/+1 counter, put it there. Now our opponent has much fewer good blocks. Not to mention, this also fuels our graveyard, so on our turn we can grab some better things. Sure, decent blocks there. Now, you could make a case for us also attacking with our lands there, but I think we're just going to play it safe for the next turn. Let's see, did we have another cave in here? Doesn't look like it, so I'm just going to go ahead and hold on to Glimpse the Core. We can use our Cavernous Maw as blockers if we want, but the Leech should be more than enough. Treasure token, yep, that's not going to be an issue. Yeah, I'm not really seeing a way that our opponent's going to be able to stop all of our damage. So they'll have to block in the sky. Equip, sure, 6/5, Menace. Yep, that's 6 damage. It's kind of big. So we're looking at 6, 7, potentially 8 damage that our opponent can deal here. And then they have to be ready for the swing back. Okay, yep. So what, 9 potential damage? Or I guess 8 still, because they tap down the Siren. Make some treasure. We could double block, but I really don't think we're going to need to. No, I think we'll block. We can block. This will be fine. We'll just get rid of it now. Gain some life. No reason not to, since we could just go ahead and bring the leech back. Yep. Dealing some damage, sure. Not particularly concerned. We'll let all of that happen. The more things they tap down here, the worse situation they're going to be in, especially since we can just animate our lands. I mean, surely they're not going to tap down anything else, right? They need blockers for the tortoises. Yeah, okay, so it looks like we've got it. Alright, everyone. So I'm sure you've seen a bunch of other people trying to build this deck in a lot of different ways, but I do truly think that this is going to be the best way to build the Caves deck. Right here with Draconic Destiny, we've got a lot of potential to sink in some of our extra mana in the late game and have our flying bat threats go and deal lethal damage to our opponent. I think Blossoming Tortoise is really strong in this deck for giving us additional ramp and also enabling that Draconic Destiny combo. And I think the most important inclusion to have is our Virtue of Persistence. If you're looking at a mirror matchup, Virtue is going to make the difference. You're going to be getting more value. It doesn't matter what your opponent tries to recur in terms of caves and things like that, since you can just pull out some of their big creatures as well. But yeah, I wouldn't call caves the most competitive deck in Standard. I think you definitely have some other options, but for it being a new archetype available to us, I definitely think that this is a fun deck to play. Now, another interesting thing to note is this deck is a little expensive this way. You can cut down on the cost by removing the Destiny and the Tortoises. You can replace those with things like the Sky Turtle and things like that instead, just to give you a little bit of different value if you don't want to spend all those rare wild cards. But again, if you do want to play the Caves deck, I think that this is definitely the best way to build it. And we were able to see some of the benefits of having all of those cards available to us in our games today. Now, if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you have any ideas for another deck you'd like to see me play, why don't you let me know in a comment down below. I'll see you all next time.